In this video, we're going to cover the crowdsourcing form. What this is it's basically a form that your users can use to either submit new locations to your database or submit changes to locations already in your database. And so where the crowdsourcing form is found is in interface settings, and then under crowdsourcing you'll see a section called Crowdsourcing Form, and this is very much like if you've ever manipulated the results or you've created a lead form. The concepts are kind of the same, and so I'm not going to go into too much detail about the basic mechanics here. They should be pretty evident from other tutorials, but I will talk about a few specific elements that are important in this particular crowdsourcing form. And let's first back up and think a little bit about how this is being used. It's used in basically two ways. One is to submit a new location to your database, and the other is to submit changes to a location in your database. And so when I think about that, I think about some of the most important changes are the critical elements that in terms of keeping your contact information up to date. That is things like name, address, phone, and then also elements of a profile that may be considered supplementary information. So things that might be kind of nice to haves, like a gallery of photos or an image or a custom field or something like that. So and we'll explore those various options. But what I'd like to do first is look at the form as it exists in its default state, so you kind of understand what these pieces are. Name is just the location name, right? When a location is submitted, the name field goes straight here, right? It's the name of the location, just like you find elsewhere in MetaLocator. One of the really cool things about this form is it collects data in a very structured way. It assumes that the people who are typing in this form are not data management experts, right? And so the address form will bias its suggestions based on the visitor's location. So I'm here in Milwaukee on the east side, and so I just typed in 20, and it's already suggesting a location just around the corner from me, which I could then choose if that matched. And so I have also, though, the ability, if I know that this 2026 East Lafayette place, okay, sure, it's right here, but I want to put this right at this particular front door, I can drag and drop the map as necessary. Maybe I also want to add like a suite number, suite 110. But notice also Milwaukee, United States, Wisconsin, all of those were automatically filled out. And so this is kind of the most basic type crowdsourcing that I could imagine in terms of a crowdsourcing form. One of the things that I want to point out as well that's unique about this form is the country list and state list fields. And so you'll notice country is positioned above state, and that's done purposefully because if the user was filling this form out, maybe they didn't end up using the autocomplete, or they wanted to, for example, just modify this to, say, for example, Australia. The state field, as you may have noticed, automatically fills with those states in the country that I selected. And so now I have options in Australia. But if I want to go back, obviously, to the United States, those values are in here. And it remembers that you had previously selected Wisconsin. And so that's how geography is collected in this form. And it's really built to get the most properly formatted data possible from your end users without allowing them to make a whole lot of mistakes. And so the other fields that I wanted to mention, okay, we've got address, we've got city, we've got state, but one of the other ones that we can add is a phone field. So when you collect the phone field, there's a few ways to do that. But as users are typing in a phone, you have this kind of free form, 123, 123, 123. It allows you to basically key in any particular number. But the other thing that you can do is actually tell MetaLocator that this is going to be a phone field. And then what you'll get is this international phone capture field that allows you to type in 303-507-4028. And then if when that gets saved, it'll include the country code and it'll store it in a standard, I think it's called the I-394 or E-394 format. This is also really good at validating. If this is actually not a real phone number, and that control knows that, and so it won't allow people to type in, for example, like 555-5555. It'll continue to say that that's not a legit phone number until you actually type in a real phone number. So this works in all countries, and so it does a really good job at collecting structured data. The other field that we talked about was images, and so we may want to capture images from our end users, and they can upload them using this form. And one of the things I want to show you is if I add a field, and I know that in this account I have an image field, but it's not showing up. And the reason it's not showing up is because under fields, if we go to data and then fields, we open that in a new window, you'll notice this column called visitor form. This column is ultimately tells us whether or not this field can be accessible to crowdsourcing users. So if I scroll down, I can see I've got a whole bunch of fields in this particular account, and I'm interested though in the gallery field. So I'm going to go ahead and switch that to a visitor field, and then I'm also going to switch the image field over to a visitor field. And so I'm going to go ahead and save the changes that I've made so far. We basically have to reload this interface so that now the system knows that it can allow anonymous data to be inserted into the image field and the gallery field. So now let's click Add Field again, and let's add the image, and I'll also add the gallery field while I'm at it. Image allows you to collect one image. Gallery allows you to collect multiple images. That's about as simple as it gets. And so if I upload a particular photo, I can look at this one particular photo. This control only allows me to upload that single photo, but I can also upload multiple photos. And MetaLocator will ultimately resize all of these. I'm going to pick some really small photos here. MetaLocator will ultimately resize these. I think it's if they're over 1,024 pixels, it'll resize them down to 1,024 pixels. So this allows me to upload an individual image and an individual and a gallery of images. Like any other MetaLocator form field, it allows you to drag and drop these various elements as you need to. So you can move these things around in order to make them more or just generally more convenient for your end users. And so I'm going to make those changes. The other thing that I can do if users are using this form to edit locations is in the title section of this form, just like the lead form, I can add the name of the location if I'm making edits to this particular field. I'm actually going to add it as title. And I'm going to add it in the title area, and that will actually allow it to ultimately display the name of the location. Now you can see it says sample location 374. This is the one that we happen to be editing at this time. And so this title area allows you to repeat elements of the location if they are set to give the user some context while filling out the form.